Hello everyone, hope that you all are doing well. So looking at the thumbnail you might have understood that in today's video we'll be talking about OAuth 2.0. But before jumping into the video's context, if you get to learn from my videos, so please like, share and comment on my videos. And if you are new to the channel, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that the notification could be sent to you whenever I upload a new video. So let's first talk of what is OAuth and is OAuth or maybe OAuth 1.0 are same as OAuth 2.0, or are there any differences in both the versions? So to give you an answer that yes, OAuth 1.0 and OAuth 2.0 are a little different. There are many different things in both of them, and when I say OAuth, so OAuth and OAuth 1.0 are the same, right? So just to tell you that how OAuth 1.0 used to work, I'll show you the flowchart of that. So looking at the flowchart on your screens, you can see that the consumer is our application, right? Our application which is working, which needs the use of OAuth 1 to authenticate the login for the user. So now what happens is, first of all, whenever I land on my screen, I need many APIs. When we talk about OAuth 1.0, I need a list of APIs so that I could authenticate my user, right? So first of all, I need a API which could generate a token, right? So that would be my service provider, right? Any service provider from which I want that that service provider will be authenticating my request. So that that service provider has given us the API that has been given to us for fetching the request token. First of all, we need to call that API to fetch the request token, and then that service provider will be issuing us a request token, right? And then redirecting us to our application for authorization, right? And again we'll be sending to that server, API only the user information and the token generated by that service provider. The service provider will verify that the token is being generated for this particular user only. Then it will again send a user, redirect the application to the our consumer application, right? And then again from the consumer application, the access token that has been received, that contains a unique token and user information, that will again go to the service provider for verifying the token, right? And when the service provider verifies the token that the token is correct, it is being generated by me, then it grants the access, right? It grants the access to the token, and then from our application point of view, the connection is being made and the user can log in. I have taken an example of login. You can even think of any secure request where you require a token, right? There is a separate service in which you have to provide the user credentials, and on the basis of user credentials the service provider will generate a request token. Then you have to take that request token and attach to any request that you want to send, be it a login request, be it getting some data from the database. You have to attach the token with it. That request will land to the server. Again it will check that the token generated is correct and with the same user credentials that the service provider has generated, and then that request would be sent to that particular destination from where you will be getting the results. So this is how the OAuth 1.0 used to work. So now that I said that there are differences between OAuth 1.0 and OAuth 2.0. So what are the differences? Like OAuth 1, you have to generate a signature for each and every request, right? Signature means a token. You can consider a signature like a token, and that token needs to be attached to any request hitting any server, right? For security purposes, right? And in OAuth 2.0, we don't need to generate any signature, right? It works on TLS and SSL commands, right, for the communication. So it will we don't need any secure token to be generated by a server, and then we will be attaching that token to our request, and then we'll be sending it to our destination server, right? So how it works, OAuth2 works like, if I'm logging through a Google service, right? If I go to my login page and it says that okay, you can log in through Google, so I'll request click on that Google login button. So it will check my credentials, right? My email ID, my password, and many other parameters. It will check okay that the user is present in the database or not, in the Google database. If it is present, then it will generate a unique token linking my user ID, and a unique token would be generated and would be sent back to the server application, the application that has requested for the login, right? So that request, the unique token would be returned to the server application. In this, we don't need any manual token generation APIs, right? So it is done automatically. So Google service will generate a unique token and return to our server application. And if the user is not present, then the login request would fail, right? And if the user is present, the token would be returned to the server application. Now what server application would do, it will take that token and again verify the token with the Google service. Check that okay, is this token correct and is being generated for user that is present on the Google database. So it will send the request again to the Google service and checks that okay, the token is verified or not. So if Google returns that okay, the token is verified and I have only generated the token, then the server application would allow us to log in, rather than or if Google says the token has been not generated by us, then the request would fail. So look, once the token is being generated, I guess the server application should allow to log in. But to protect your application so that someone in between comes and hacks your server and takes the access of it, so to protect that, again the server applications hit back to the Google service to check that okay, the token is correct or not, and is being generated by Google service or not. If Google service says yes, it is being generated, then only the server applications would allow you to log in. So we'll be implementing this kind of an example only. This would be a very basic application which I'll be implementing in this video. It will directly when I go on my page to log in into my application, so it will directly take me to the Google page of login, right? So there I have to input my parameters like user email ID and my password, and then the Google service will allow me to log in for my application, right? This would be a very basic application. In the next video I'll be covering a full login and registration module with Google, and I would say GitHub, Facebook, Okta. You can integrate all these services with the Spring Boot project, right? I'll cover that in the separate video, but in today's video we'll be covering out direct logging through Google services. So as we are talking about OAuth 2.0, if there is much of interest on OAuth 1.0, that how OAuth 1.0 used to work, then you can comment down below on this video. I will definitely cover an example of OAuth 1.0 as well. But to be practically implementing into your projects, right now OAuth 2.0 practicality is much more rather than OAuth 1.0. OAuth 1.0, there were many manual steps that you have to perform. In OAuth 2.0, many things are being taken care of, right, for the communication part. So now let's go to the IDE and let me show you the project, that how you can make a simple project and implement OAuth 2.0, Spring Security OAuth 2.0 in your projects. So you can see I have already generated the project, so it's OAuth 2.0, and the infrastructure, the structure of the project looks like I've made a very simple application with only 3 packages. One is our main application, right? This contains our main application. This will contain our Spring Security application configurations, and this is our controller, right? And we, in our resources package, we have one HTML to be displayed to the user and some application.properties changes, right? So let's start with the main application first of all. So we have our OAuth 2.0 application. which is just a simple main application to run your program, right? Now let's go to our Spring Security configurations. So okay, here in Spring Security configurations, you can see that I have implemented the filter chain method, right? If you are still using the older version, you are implementing Web Security Configure Adapter, which is now deprecated. So you might be writing a configuration method, right, wherein you grant requests and everything in that way. So you can switch from that method to this method also if you want to move away from that deprecated Web Security Configure Adapter. So you can write a filter chain method here to allow the request. So what we have given grant of, like I say that any you have to request any HTTP authorization request that is coming to you, you have to authenticate all the request. Any request that comes, you have to authenticate, and the login would be done by OAuth2.2 login, right? OAuth2 login is again provided by OAuth2 library, right, which tells us that okay, any third party that you have provided for authorization, it will redirect us to that. If we land on our first page of login, or maybe any if we need an access for like I have a endpoint like /auth, right, and if it needs an access of authorization, as it says that any request comes to you, you have to authorize using OAuth2 login. So any request lands, you have to check that okay, if any third party authorization is being maintained in the project, then you have to go to that third party tool and you have to authorize my request, and then only give access to further application processes, right? So it says this, right, that any request comes, you have to authorize through auth2 login, right? So what now I say that okay, I am implementing a Google service here, right? Google whenever I okay, let me first take you to the controller part first. So controller is simple, right? I have written @controller and my mapping is /login, right? And /login returns a login API. Oh, sorry, not login API. This is a wrong, I would say welcome API, right? So I say that okay, /login would be my endpoint, and after my login, a welcome HTML would be returned to the user. So what will happen is that when I hit /login, right, it will see that what configuration is being provided. So configuration is that any request come, you have to authorize or authenticate that request using auth2 login, right? Auth2 login. So what auth2 login will see that okay, is there any third party credentials provided? So it will go and check in the application.properties, and it sees that okay, it is being providing Google client ID and Google client secret. So it will understand it that okay, Google client ID and Google secret client is being provided. So the third party which will authenticate my request would be Google, right? I'll tell you that how to generate Google client ID and client secret, right? First of all, these properties are being required, and these properties will tell my Spring Security config that okay, Google client ID and secret ID is being secret is being provided. So my third party tool to authenticate is Google, right? Okay, now you might be thinking that okay, how are these Google client ID and client secret are being generated? So I'll tell you that how I have generated the client ID and client secret. To look at this clip, that how I am generating it. So you have to go on Google, you have to type Google console developer, right, and you have to click on Google developer console. If you are landing for the first time, it will ask you to log in again, right? So this is our dashboard where you'll be redirected to whenever you land here, right? So you have to give the permission that okay, you are using it for India, and it is done. Now you have to click on credentials, right? When you will click on credentials, it will take you to okay, it is saying me to create a project first. So I'll create a project. It would be you can give any name to the project, and then you can give the location as well. So location would be, I would say, you can give the access. Okay, no organization. Let me create the project. Now the project is being created, right? It has been creating a project. So after the project has been created, you have to click on credentials, right? So yes, the project has been created and it is default selected, right? So now you can see that there is nothing in the OAuth2 client IDs table displayed, right? So you have to click on credentials, right? I have clicked on credentials and I'll click on create credentials. Now I need to create OAuth client ID, so click on OAuth client ID. So here it says configure consent screen. Okay, so you have to click on configure consent screen. So for what type would you be using? So I'll be using just for internal, right? Only available to the users within your organization. I'll be using for the external part, right? So I'll click on external and create it, right? So now it says that, okay, what would be the app name? So you can say it as ABC, anything you can say, and the supported email, you can enter the email that from where you have logged in. No need to enter the logo, right? So and nothing else, app domain and everything, no need to enter that. Now you have to enter the email address, right? Developer contact information, so you can enter any email address. I'll enter my only, so I'll say this as my email address and I'll say save and continue, right? I'll say save and continue. Now I have to decide that, okay, whenever I generate credentials for my application, at on what would be the scope for my application. So you will click on add or remove scope, and then you can select here as you can select, so you no need to so okay, so you have to, okay, now you have to save and continue, right? You don't have to add anything. Add a user here, you can test for any user. I'll enter my email ID only, so you can add a user here. Just click on email add and click on add, done. Now click on save and continue, right? So done, right? It is done now. After doing this, I'll say back to dashboard, right? So now I'm back to dashboard. Now I have to click on again on credentials, and again I'll click on create credentials, right? I'll say OAuth client ID. Now I'll select the application type, as I am generating it for web application, so I'll select web application. I'll give a name of web application as ABC. I have already generated it from some other email ID, so I won't generate it completely. I'll tell you that what are the steps. So the previous steps are followed. Now you have to click on credentials again, create credentials, select the application as web application, name the application, and then you have to add the URI. So what would be the URI? First of all, it would be HTTP localhost 8080. As you are running it locally, so you have to enter this, right? And what would be our authorization URL, redirect authorization URL? So it would be our Google authorization URL, right? The second part, authorized redirect URL. Whenever our application is being authorized, right? Like when I click on, okay, I have to log in through Google, then on what URL it should be redirected? So I have to redirect it to here, right? So now I'll click on create, right? When I click on create, it will create the client ID and client secret, right? You have to copy these and you have to put it on those in front of those keys which are being present in your application properties, right? You can see here that in your application properties I have provided these keys. In front of them you have to provide these values. So this is how you will be generating your client ID and client secret. So as you have understood that, okay, how the application works, this is my endpoint. I'll be returning a welcome HTML whenever my request has been authorized through Google, right? So this is my main application, my Spring Security application, my Spring Security configurations. Then these are my properties, which says that okay, my third party client to authorize is Google, and I have provided the Google client ID and secret. And this is my HTML, right, which would be displayed to the user whenever my request is being authenticated. So now let's run the application and let's see that how the application works. So let me click on my main application and let me start running the application. So let's wait the application to start. So okay, so as this is a basic application, so this will just tell you that how you can integrate third party for OAuth 2, right? So this is the application has started. So let me take you to the browser and let me type in localhost 8080 and I need AUTH, right? AUTH auth is my landing request, right? Slash auth is my landing request. So I'll click on auth and I'll enter it. So it will directly take me to the Google authentication, right? Yes, you can see that it has directly taken me to the Google authentication, right? So it is asking me to enter my email ID. So that's my email ID. Let me now enter my password, right? I'll enter my password and then I'll say submit. So it's as two-factor authentication is being implemented, so it requires me to authenticate, right? So I will see it like that, and it says that authenticate your request, and yes, it is done. Now it will redirect me to my welcome HTML, right? Yes, so it says that okay, welcome to securities. Hi, welcome to the application after getting authenticated from Google. So this was a very small example for implementing OAuth 2, right, in your applications. It will give you a very basic idea of that okay, you can implement this in your applications as well. And now you would also notice whenever you will be landing on any website, any web application where there is a button that okay, you can log in from Google, you can log in from Facebook, you can log in from GitHub, you can log in from Okta. So you will know that what processes are going on the back end, right? That okay, the token is being generated from that third party, it is being sent to the application again verifies that token, and then it gives you access to log in into its system, right? So this was it from the video. Hope that you people might like the video, and do comment if you have any queries. I will love to reply you back, and do share among your contacts to grow the reach of this channel as well. And if you are landing for the first time on my channel, please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that the notification could be sent to you whenever I upload a new video. So this was it. This was a very basic gist given to you for OAuth 2 securities, right? So I'll see you in the next video. Till then, happy learning.